My name is Natalia Foster. I'm 34 years old and I work as a logistics manager for a regional distribution company in Phoenix. My life runs on structure, not because I lack emotion, but because structure keeps things contained, predictable, clean. Every morning, I leave before sunrise. My days are mapped out before they begin. Work, deadlines, metrics, outcomes, even my weekends are planned in advance. Not rigidly, but intentionally. Stability isn't something I wait for. It's something I build. Daniel Hayes is different. He's 32, works in public relations for a hospitality group. His life doesn't follow a schedule, it flows. Late nights, networking events, spontaneous plans that stretch into something undefined. Where I create structure, he creates moments. At the beginning, I thought that contrast made us stronger. Balance, we called it. We had been together just over 4 years, living together for 2. No kids, 1 dog, and an apartment that, on paper, looked like progress. The lease was in my name. That wasn't an accident. His credit history was inconsistent, and at the time, I told myself it didn't matter. We split bills unevenly. I carried more. Again, I told myself it didn't matter. Because relationships aren't spreadsheets. At least, that's what Daniel liked to remind me. The shift didn't happen all at once. It rarely does. It started around our anniversary this year. Daniel came home one evening with an idea. Not a trip, not a vacation, a wedding trip. He actually used those words. We need to reclaim something, he said, leaning against the kitchen counter like he was pitching a campaign. We've become predictable, transactional. I remember standing there, drying my hands slowly, watching him more than listening. Predictable, transactional. Words that, to me, meant stable, reliable. To him, apparently, they meant something else entirely. I suggested Italy. 1 week, something structured, manageable within both our schedules. He smiled, but it wasn't agreement. It was dismissal. That's exactly what I mean, Natalia, he said. Everything with you turns into logistics. I didn't argue. I asked what he had in mind. And that's when he said it. He wanted to go alone. 3 weeks, Spain, southern France, no fixed itinerary, no constraints, just experience. To find myself again, he added, to feel something real. There was a pause after that. Not dramatic, not explosive, just quiet. I didn't like the idea. That part is obvious. But I also didn't forbid it. We're adults. Control isn't love. So I told him, calmly, that if he needed space, I would respect that. But I wasn't going to chase him across Europe emotionally. That answer disappointed him. I could see it immediately. He wanted resistance, emotion, something bigger. See, he said, shaking his head slightly, this is what I'm talking about. You don't fight for anything. You don't fight for me. Fight. That word again. I've never understood why love has to look like conflict to feel real to some people. I'm not going to perform emotions for you, I said quietly. If you need to go, then go. He studied me for a long moment, like he was trying to provoke something deeper. You're too calm, he said finally. Too logical. It's like being with a wall sometimes. I didn't respond to that, because anything I said would have fed into the narrative he was building. Cold, logical, detached. It was easier to let him believe it. The morning he left, I drove him to the airport. No scene, no tears, no last-minute declarations. I helped him with his bags, reminded him to text when he landed. Simple, practical. To me, that was care. To him, it was proof that I didn't feel enough. He said it, right there at the drop-off. You're really just going to let me go like this? I looked at him, trying to understand what he wanted. You're the one leaving, I said. He exhaled sharply, frustrated. Most people would fight harder. I held his gaze for a second longer than necessary. I don't compete with your choices, Daniel. That was the last real conversation we had before he boarded that plane. 3 weeks. That's how long he was gone. And in that time, something shifted. Not suddenly, not obviously, but enough that when he came back, I noticed it immediately. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't distance. It was confidence. The kind that doesn't ask for permission anymore. When he walked through the front door, he looked different. Not physically, though the tan helped. It was something in the way he moved. The way his eyes scanned the room, like he was assessing it instead of returning to it, like he had already outgrown it. He dropped his suitcase by the door and looked around the living room. Why does it smell like cleaning products? He asked. I did a deep clean while you were gone, I said. He rolled his eyes lightly. Of course you did. Probably made a checklist. There was something sharper in his tone, not quite hostile, but not familiar either. That night, everything felt off. He talked fast, jumped between stories, laughed at things that didn't need laughter. His phone stayed face down on the counter, lighting up every few minutes like a silent pulse. I made pasta. Tried to keep things normal. Asked about the trip. He gave me highlight answers. Beaches were incredible. Met amazing people. Had these long, deep conversations. It was healing. Words that sounded meaningful, but said nothing. When I asked who he spent the most time with, his expression shifted. Subtle. But there. Why does it matter? He asked. I'm just asking. It feels like you're interrogating me. There it was again. The deflection. I nodded once and let it go, because pressing wouldn't give me the truth. Not yet. Later, as he stood in the kitchen scrolling through his phone, he said something that didn't quite land the way he intended. Maybe I just needed to be around people who actually make me feel alive. I didn't react immediately. I just watched him. Because statements like that, they don't exist in isolation. They come from somewhere. And in that moment, I realized something important. Whatever happened during those 3 weeks, it didn't stay there. The next morning, Daniel slept in. That wasn't unusual on its own. What was unusual was the silence. No half-awake conversation, no casual good morning, no acknowledgement that we were back in the same space after 3 weeks apart. Just distance. I left for work at my usual time. Same routine, same structure. But something in my mind had already shifted. Not emotionally, logically. By lunch, I had 3 messages, none from close friends. That detail mattered more than anything else. The first was from my cousin. We're not particularly close, but he follows Daniel on social media. His message was short. Are you two in an open relationship now? I stared at it for a few seconds longer than necessary. Not confusion. Confirmation. The second message came from a coworker I barely spoke to outside of meetings. Hey, everything okay at home? Vague, careful. The kind of message people send when they already know something but want you to say it first. The third message was from Talia, Daniel's friend. The kind of woman who always seemed supportive, but in a way that felt curated, measured, strategic. We should talk when you have time. I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. Instead, I opened Instagram. I didn't search for anything specific. I went straight to Daniel's profile. There it was, a new highlight. Wedding trip. The name alone was enough to make something in my chest tighten. Not emotionally, but analytically. Framing matters. I tapped it. At first, it looked exactly how he described. Beaches, sunsets, wine glasses held up against golden light, city streets that blurred into something cinematic, smiles, movement, freedom, a narrative, carefully constructed. Then the details started to shift. A hand on his shoulder that didn't belong to a stranger. A reflection in a window. Him and someone standing closer than coincidence allows. A laugh in the background of a rooftop clip followed by a voice. Female, calling him babe. He didn't correct it. He posted it. I paused the clip, replayed it once, then again. Not to confirm what I heard, to understand what it meant. Because posting something publicly is a decision, not a mistake, not an accident. A decision. I continued watching. Another clip, different city, same woman, though never fully shown, always partial. A hand, a silhouette, a voice, a pattern. Patterns matter. 3 separate cities, 3 separate outfits, same presence, consistent proximity. There was no ambiguity left. And surprisingly, there was no panic either, just clarity. It was like solving an equation where all the variables finally aligned. When I got home that evening, Daniel was in the bathroom. The door was half open. I could see him through the mirror. He was taking selfies, not casually, intentionally, same angle, slight variations, adjusting his expression over and over again like he was refining something, branding himself. I leaned against the doorframe. Who is she? I asked. He didn't turn around, not immediately. He kept brushing his hair, adjusting the lighting with a slight tilt of his phone. Who is who? He replied. The tone was deliberate, provocative, like he wanted me to say it out loud. I stepped further into the room. I saw the videos, I said evenly. The rooftop, the voice, the way she talks to you. Still no reaction. He set the brush down slowly and finally turned to face me, leaning back against the counter. Then he laughed, not nervous. Dismissive. You're unbelievable, he said. I go away for 3 weeks and instead of missing me, you're playing detective on Instagram? I'm not playing detective, I said. I'm responding to what you chose to make public. Something in his expression tightened, just slightly. Then he crossed his arms. Maybe if you weren't so cold all the time, he said, I wouldn't have needed someone who actually makes me feel something. There it was. Not a denial. A justification. I held his gaze. Did you sleep with her? He rolled his eyes immediately. Why does it always come back to sex with you? He said. Maybe intimacy is more than that. Maybe it's about connection. Feeling seen, feeling valued. I didn't move. Yes or no, Daniel? There was a pause, half a second, maybe less. Then he shrugged. Yeah, he said, I did. He said it like it was nothing, like he was acknowledging a minor inconvenience. And honestly, he added, tilting his head slightly, it wasn't even a big deal. It just happened. You've been emotionally absent for a long time. That sentence should have triggered something. Anger, hurt, reaction. Instead, it triggered understanding. Not of him, of the situation. Because nothing about what he described just happens. Not across 3 weeks. Not across multiple cities. Not with that level of consistency. That's not a moment. That's a sequence. A pattern of choices. Repeated. Deliberate. I exhaled slowly, more out of habit than emotion. Cheating doesn't just happen, I said. It requires decisions. Time. Intention. He clapped his hands once, slow and sarcastic. See, this is exactly what I mean, he said. Everything with you turns into a lecture, a breakdown. Where's the emotion, Natalia? Where's the fight? Fight. That word again. I looked at him for a long moment, and in that moment, something in me went quiet. Not broken, not hurt, just finished. There's not going to be a fight, I said. His expression flickered. Confusion. Then irritation. What does that even mean? It means, I said calmly, if you chose to step outside this relationship, then I'm stepping out of it too. He let out a short laugh. You're overreacting, he said immediately. This is exactly the kind of dramatic response I expected from you. Dramatic. I almost smiled at that. Because there was nothing dramatic about what I was about to do. Only inevitable. I walked past him, into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out 2 large suitcases. Behind me, I could hear him follow. Still talking, still explaining, still trying to reshape the narrative into something philosophical instead of what it actually was. This is why I couldn't talk to you, he said. You go straight to consequences. No nuance, no understanding. I didn't respond. I just opened his side of the dresser and started folding his clothes. Neatly, the same way I always do when we travel. At first, he laughed. Actually laughed, like it was a joke. You're not serious, he said. You're really doing this. I kept folding. Shirts, pants, work clothes first. I'm not interested in continuing to live together while I sort out what comes next, I said. His laughter faded. This is my home too, he said, sharper now. That's true, I replied. And you're free to come back for anything else later, with notice. That's when the shift happened. Not guilt, not regret, annoyance. You're being ridiculous, he said. It was just sex. It didn't mean anything. I zipped the first suitcase. It meant enough for you to risk everything publicly, I said. That's not nothing. His voice got louder after that. Accusations, deflections, attempts to reframe. But I wasn't listening anymore, because the outcome had already been decided. And unlike him, I don't repeat decisions once they're made. I kept packing. Not quickly, not aggressively, methodically. There's a difference. Each movement had intention. Work shirts folded along the seams, shoes placed carefully at the bottom of the suitcase, toiletries set aside, not thrown in. I wasn't reacting. I was concluding. Behind me, Daniel's voice kept moving. Faster now, sharper, like he was trying to fill the space I had already left emotionally. You're seriously going to throw away 4 years over this? He demanded. I didn't look up. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. I'm acknowledging what you already did. That's not fair, he snapped. You're acting like I destroyed something perfect. I paused for half a second at that. Perfect. That word didn't belong anywhere near us. Then I continued folding. I'm acting like you made a choice, I said, repeatedly. He exhaled hard, pacing now. You're twisting this, he said. You've been distant for months. You shut down every real conversation. You think just because you pay bills and keep things organized, that's enough. There it was. The familiar argument. Repackaged. Refined. I zipped the second suitcase halfway, then stood up slowly. When I turned to face him, he was already watching me, waiting for something. Emotion. Anger. A crack. He didn't get one. Stability isn't neglect, I said quietly, and dissatisfaction doesn't justify betrayal. He laughed again, but there was less confidence in it this time. You always do this, he said. Turn everything into some kind of moral equation. It's not an equation, I replied. It's a boundary. That word landed differently. I could see it in the way his posture shifted. Boundaries don't invite negotiation. They end it. You're being cold, he said, softer now, but with an edge underneath. Most people would at least try to fix this. I don't compete with someone you chose over me, I said. That was the first moment he went quiet. Not for long, just long enough to feel the shift. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it instinctively. Reflex. The screen lit up his face for a second, just enough for me to see the name. Not fully, but enough. A woman's name. He turned it face down immediately. Too late. Patterns matter. I picked up the second suitcase and zipped it closed. By the time I carried both of them to the front door, the energy in the apartment had changed completely. He followed me, slower this time, watching, calculating. "You're really doing this," he said, but it wasn't a question anymore. I set the suitcases down by the door and opened it. Calm, steady. "Yeah," I said. He didn't move right away. Instead, he leaned against the wall, crossing his arms again like he was trying to reclaim some version of control. "Oh, you're going to regret this," he said. "Once you calm down and realize you overreacted." I looked at him fully, for the first time since the conversation started. "I am calm," I said. That seemed to frustrate him more than anything else, because calm doesn't give him anything to push against. No escalation, no reaction, no emotional leverage, just finality. He stared at me for a few seconds longer, like he was waiting for me to break. I didn't. Eventually, he grabbed the handle of one suitcase, then the other. His movements were exaggerated now, louder than necessary, performative, as if the volume could compensate for the lack of control. "This is unbelievable," he muttered. "You're actually choosing this." I didn't respond, because there was nothing left to say. At the door, he paused. One last attempt. "You're really just done?" he asked. I held his gaze. "You were done 3 weeks ago," I said. "You just didn't say it out loud." That landed. I saw it. A flicker. Then it disappeared, replaced by irritation again. "Fine," he said sharply. "If that's how you want it." He stepped out into the hallway, dragging the suitcases behind him. The sound of the wheels echoed briefly against the tile. Then he stopped, turned back slightly. "You're going to wish you handled this differently," he said. I didn't move. "I won't," I replied. He stood there for another second. Then he left. The hallway went quiet. I closed the door, locked it, not out of anger, out of habit. For a moment, I just stood there, listening to the silence settle. It didn't feel heavy. It felt clean, like something unresolved had finally reached its conclusion. I walked back into the kitchen and sat down at the table, opened my laptop. The first thing I did was search for the contact information of a divorce attorney a colleague had mentioned months ago. Not because I was planning this, but because in my line of work you hear things. You prepare for variables. I drafted a short email. Clear, factual. Shared property, no kids, infidelity admitted. Public documentation available. No emotion, just information. Then I sent it. After that, I opened Instagram again, went back to his highlight, and started documenting everything. Screenshots, videos, captions, every clip that showed a pattern. The rooftop bar, the beach, the repeated presence of the same woman across different cities. Consistency matters. Evidence matters. Not for revenge, for clarity. Around 9 that night, my phone lit up. Talia, of course. Her message came in quickly, like she had been waiting. "Daniel is with me right now. He's really upset. He said you threw him out without warning. That's not okay, Natalia." I read it once, then replied, only once. He admitted to sleeping with someone during the trip. I chose not to continue living together while I pursue separation. That was it. No elaboration, no emotion. A few minutes later, my cousin called. I answered this time, not because I wanted to talk, because information flows faster when you let it. "Hey," he said immediately. "I wasn't sure if I should call, but have you seen what's going around?" "I've seen enough," I said. He hesitated. "Yeah, people are sharing his stories, like screenshots, especially the one where that girl, she called him my favorite mistake or something." I didn't react, but I noted it. Language matters. "Thanks for letting me know," I said. After we hung up, I didn't open any group chats. I didn't search for anything, because I didn't need to. The situation was already unfolding, publicly, without my involvement. Around midnight, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then stop. Then ring again. Same number. I didn't answer. If it was important, they would leave a message. They didn't. Instead, a few minutes later, I received a text. Different number. Same tone. "Daniel, we need to talk. This is getting out of control." I read it twice. Not because I was unsure, because I was analyzing the wording. Out of control. Not "we need to fix this." Not "I made a mistake." Out of control. Meaning, the narrative wasn't going the way he expected. I didn't respond. Instead, I placed my phone face down on the table, just like he had done. Some habits transfer easily. And for the first time that day, I allowed myself to sit in the silence. Not to feel, but to observe. Because what was happening now was no longer about us. It was about consequences. And those don't require participation to unfold. By the next morning, the situation had moved beyond anything private, and I hadn't said a word. That was the part Daniel didn't anticipate. He expected resistance, emotion, maybe even desperation. What he didn't expect was absence. Not physical, narrative. I went to work like I always do. Same schedule, same meetings, same metrics, but my phone told a different story. Notifications stacked quietly in the background. Messages from people who weren't part of my daily life, but close enough to observe it from a distance. Observers always become participants when something public breaks. By mid-morning, I finally checked. A message from a mutual friend. Daniel's been telling people you two were basically separated before the trip. I read that slowly. Separated? That word matters. It changes everything. It reframes betrayal as timing instead of choice. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I opened my email. There was a new message from Daniel. Subject line, "We need to fix this." I opened it. The tone had shifted. Gone was the confidence, the dismissiveness. Now it was controlled. Calculated. He wrote that things had gotten misinterpreted, that people were reacting without understanding the full context, that the trip had been complicated emotionally, and that lines blurred. Lines blurred. Another phrase that avoids responsibility. He suggested we present the situation as a mutual break, something that happened after both of us had mentally checked out. That part was almost impressive. Not the creativity, the timing. He didn't try to control the narrative when he thought he was winning it, only when it started slipping. I closed the email without replying, because correcting him directly would turn this into a conversation, and I wasn't interested in conversations anymore. Around noon, my cousin sent another update. No commentary, just screenshots. Daniel's highlight had changed. Several clips were gone. Specifically, the ones where the woman was most obvious. The rooftop bar. The beach clip. The audio where she called him babe. Deleted. Not cleaned up. Erased. Except, nothing on the internet disappears cleanly, because those same clips were already circulating elsewhere. Different angles, different uploads. People had saved them, shared them, discussed them. Context spreads faster than control. An hour later, another message came in, this time from someone I didn't recognize. A woman. Her message was short. "Hi, I didn't know he was with you." No name, no introduction, but I didn't need one. I understood immediately. She found out. Not from him, from the same place everyone else did. Public exposure. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, because I wasn't part of that conversation. She deserved the truth, but not from me. Daniel had created that situation. He could resolve it, or not. That afternoon, my phone rang again. Unknown number. This time I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, the notification appeared. A voice message. I didn't play it, because tone doesn't change facts. And I already had all the facts I needed. Instead, I drafted one message. Simple, direct. Communication moving forward should be limited to logistics regarding shared property and legal process. I have contacted an attorney. I sent it. Then I blocked his number, not out of anger, out of efficiency. Because emotional conversations extend situations that are already resolved. Within seconds, my phone buzzed again. Different number, then another. I blocked those too. Patterns. Predictable. When people lose control of the narrative, they escalate. They reach. They push. And if you respond, you become part of it again. I had no intention of doing that. By late afternoon, the situation expanded beyond just social circles. Another message came through, this time from a coworker in Daniel's industry. Someone I had met once at an event. I don't know if this is my place, but clients have been asking questions. His posts were pretty public. That detail mattered. Because Daniel's job, public relations, is built on perception. Image isn't just personal, it's professional, and he had blurred that line himself. By evening, I received an email from him. Not emotional this time. Structured, almost mirroring my tone. He wrote that this situation was escalating unnecessarily, that we should handle things privately to avoid further damage. That word again. Damage. Not accountability. Not responsibility. Damage. He said if I continued allowing misinformation to spread, it could impact both of us. I read that twice, then forwarded it directly to my attorney. No response. An hour later, my attorney called. "Do not engage," he said. "Document everything. This is someone realizing consequences are real." That aligned with my assessment. So I did exactly that. Documented, archived, observed. Meanwhile, the situation continued unfolding on its own. My cousin sent another update that night. The woman, whoever she was, had removed Daniel from her profile. Unfollowed. Blocked. then posted something vague. Honesty matters. No names, no details. But context filled the gaps. Daniel lost control of that narrative too. One by one, the variables were correcting themselves. Without intervention. Around 10 p.m., I received a call from his mother. I answered. Not because I owed her anything, because she asked respectfully. Her voice was quiet, not angry. Is it true? She asked. Yes, I said. No elaboration, no embellishment, just truth. There was a long pause on the other end. He told us you were distant, she said finally, that you pushed him away. I considered that for a moment, then answered carefully. I may not express things the way he prefers, I said, but I don't betray people. Silence again, then a soft exhale. I understand, she said. That was the end of the conversation. No accusations, no defense, just understanding. By Friday, the shift was complete. Daniel wasn't controlling the story anymore. He was reacting to it. His messages, what I could see before blocking, had shifted in tone again. Less confident, more urgent. He tried email next. Long paragraphs, explanations, reframing. He claimed the relationship had been over-emotionally before the trip, that the affair happened after he had already checked out. That detail again. Strategic. Except it didn't match reality. We were still sharing a bed the week before he left. Still discussing future plans. Still functioning as a couple. There was no separation. No conversation. Just his decision. And now, his revision. I didn't respond. Because truth doesn't need reinforcement. It just needs consistency. By the end of the week, I had done exactly 3 things. Contacted an attorney. Documented evidence. Stopped protecting his version of events. That was it. Everything else happened on its own. 3 weeks after Daniel walked out of that apartment, the legal process began. Not dramatically, not emotionally, administratively. I met with my attorney on a Monday morning before work. Downtown office, neutral space, clean lines, minimal distractions. Exactly the kind of environment I prefer when decisions matter. I brought everything. Screenshots, timeline, financial records, lease documents, shared expenses, the email where he admitted to sleeping with her. Not because I needed to prove anything emotionally, because clarity matters when things become formal. My attorney reviewed everything quietly, occasionally nodding. You've documented this well, he said. Clean timelines make clean cases. That made sense. No kids, both employed, shared lease but primarily managed through my account, contributions traceable. He explained the process. Division of assets, separation of responsibilities, no theatrics, no moral arguments. Infidelity doesn't change the outcome legally as much as people think. Things get divided. Equity gets split. Done. I was fine with that. Because this was never about punishment. It was about conclusion. That same afternoon, Daniel sent another email. Different tone. Again. He suggested we meet in person. Neutral location. Just to talk. He wrote that lawyers escalate things unnecessarily, that we owed it to our history to at least have one real conversation. I read it once. Then I asked myself a simple question. What new information could he possibly give me? That would change anything. There wasn't any. The facts were already established. He chose to sleep with someone else. He made it public. He reframed it when confronted, and only when consequences appeared did he shift toward repair. That sequence mattered. So I declined the meeting. Through my attorney. No emotion. Just process. That decision seemed to trigger something, because the next email from him was different. Sharper, more controlled. He suggested that if I pursued this aggressively, he might have to share more context about our relationship. That phrasing was careful. Not a direct threat, but close enough. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my attorney. Again. An hour later, he called. Do not engage, he said. This is pressure. Document it. So I did. Meanwhile, outside of the legal structure, things continued shifting. Quietly. Daniel's professional life started reflecting what had already happened socially. No announcement, no public fallout, just changes. A campaign he was leading, reassigned. Client-facing appearances, reduced. In public relations, perception is currency. And he had spent his carelessly. Mutual friends distanced themselves. Not dramatically. Gradually. Less engagement. Fewer responses, subtle withdrawal. Not because I said anything. I didn't. But visible betrayal makes people uncomfortable, especially when it's documented. By mid-process, the logistics became routine. Shared subscriptions, separated. Accounts updated. Access restricted. I changed passwords. Not maliciously, systematically. Sent him documentation outlining what I would continue covering until formal agreements were finalized. Clear, traceable, professional. There was no room for confusion. A week later, he came to collect the rest of his things. He brought his father. I wasn't there. That was intentional. My attorney advised minimal contact. Apparently, he asked about me more than once. His father kept the interaction brief, efficient. When they left, my apartment felt different again. Not empty. Final. The lease would be resolved later, but emotionally, it already was. The official separation filing moved quickly, exactly as predicted. No delays, no complications, just documentation and agreement. We divided everything, fairly, clinically, like closing a contract. A month later, the apartment lease was terminated. I moved into a smaller place closer to downtown, shorter commute, fewer memories attached to walls. It wasn't an emotional decision. It was practical, and that felt right. About a week after everything finalized, I received one last email from Daniel. No subject line, just text. I opened it. He wrote that he never expected things to spiral the way they did, that he thought I would fight harder, that my calmness made him feel replaceable. I read that sentence twice, not because I didn't understand it, because I did. Completely. He admitted he wanted a reaction before the trip, something dramatic, something emotional, to prove something, and when he didn't get it, he leaned into the attention he found elsewhere. He called it validating, that word again. He ended the email by saying he hoped one day I would understand why he did what he did. I sat there for a moment after reading it. Then I archived the message. Because understanding doesn't require acceptance. I understand that he confused intensity with intimacy. I understand that he interpreted stability as indifference. I understand that attention can distort judgment when someone already feels disconnected. But none of that changes the outcome. Because betrayal is still a choice, not a reaction, not an accident, a choice. Life moved on, quietly. Work remained steady, predictable, structured, exactly the way I prefer it. Occasionally, people still ask what happened. I give the same answer every time. He had an affair during a trip that was supposed to reconnect us. I chose not to continue the relationship after that. No elaboration, no performance. Just truth. The strange part is, he was right about one thing. I am logical, and logic is simple. If someone shows you they would rather chase validation than honor commitment, you step aside and let them. Everyone had a front row seat to his unraveling. I just chose not to be part of the audience.